Hi, I'm Paul Thorpe, and I'm going to do a project where I'm going to replace an old hollow core door in a 1950s house that doesn't have any trim around the doors. They've built the jamb into the wall, and I'm going to leave the jamb intact and just hang a new solid core panel in this opening. And this is also going to have invisible Soss hinges that are going to recess into the door and the jamb so that you won't see the hinges when the door is shut. And I'm also going to use a flush pole that'll mount on that door and be very low profile. This is the old mortise for the 3.5-inch butt hinge. So my new hinge, the Soss hinge, is a different prep, and it's going to be in a different location. So the first thing I want to do is plug this old mortise, all these mortises with just this little wood Dutchman that I made, and I'm just going to glue that in. So now I'm ready to route my mortises for my Soss hinges into this existing jamb. And I've got this great jig, which is going to lay them out for me. And these Soss hinges are specified that they'll want 2 of them in the top and then just 1 on the bottom. And they have you do 2 right on the top because that's where all the weight is. That's where all the door is going to want to be pulling out. And if you'll notice, this jig has 4 pockets to it. And that's because it's symmetrical. I'm just going to route the 3 hinges, but I put my jig on the door jamb and route the 2 on the top and then the bottom one. And then I just turn it over and I can put it on my door and just route the 2 on the top there. And that's why we have the 4th pocket and just the 1 on the bottom. And then they'll match up perfectly. So it's important to have a jig that's all one piece like this because then everything will line up when you match up the door and the jamb. You can't afford to be off even a tiny bit with these Soss hinges because there's no adjustment to them. And it's a 2-step template because I've got the hinges need 2 different mortises. It needs 1 deep one for the middle there and then a shallower one for the lip here. So with this jig here, I can route that deep pocket first and then just take off that strip, and then I'll be able to route that lip on it. I want my hinge to land pretty much in the middle of the space here, and that means I'm going to have 3/16 on each side of the hinge. So what I'm going to do is take my combination square and I make and set it at 1/8 of an inch, and I just made a line right there, and I do this where each mortise is going to be, and then I can lay my jig on, and with this jig I'm going to be using a 1/2-inch router bit with a 5/8 collar, but I got the 1/8 laid out there, and then I get another 1/16 from the collar, and that'll put my hinge 3/16 in from the edge. I have my 2-step pockets routed on the jamb, and now I'm ready to route the mortises on the door. I have my door clamped to my bench here, and I held the door panel up against the jamb and traced the shape of the jamb on the door on all 4 edges. And then I took it to my bench here and I trimmed each edge and planed each edge so that this door is going to fit that jamb exactly. And then I went ahead and routed my deep pockets. I put my jig on and routed my deep pockets on that first step. And now I can take these stops off, and I'm ready to route that thin lip thinner, 7/16 inch for the edge there. So those are looking good, and I'm going to just go ahead and install those now. And I have my self-centering drill bit. That'll just put a nice hole for those number 14 screws right in the middle of the pilot hole there. And careful to not over tighten these, just kind of set them in snug and they'll be plenty strong. And I've got my little lifter pedal which helps it me lift it up and place it in there, and works really well. And I'm going to check the fit now, and that looks really good. I can see I need some adjustments. I have a bigger gap on this side than over here, so I'm going to shim behind the hinges to move the panel over a bit and try to get an even reveal around all the edges. Now, like I said, I wanted to move my door panel over to make a bigger gap between the edge and the jamb here. And I do that by putting these little shims between the hinge and the jamb. And I carry these little cardboard shims, and I put two-sided tape on them, and that just goes behind each hinge leaf like that. And it's kind of nice because I can just stick them on there and they'll stay in place, and it just makes everything really easy. So that's sticky there. And there's my shim. And I can just kind of stack them up. And there's one more. So now I'm going to check this fit now that I have those shims behind the hinges. My door is hung and looking really good. It looks really great with these even reveals all the way around, sitting in there really nicely. But we do have one issue, which is that these two jamb legs aren't parallel, and this is an old house. It's because this is a remodel, and this jamb leg is plumb, and this jamb leg on this wall is leaning back about 5/16 of an inch. We call that cross leg jamb. It's where like one leg of the jamb is not parallel to the other leg. So when you hang the door on the hinge leg, it follows that hinge leg, but when it hits the strike leg, it runs into the stop on the bottom, and the wall's further away on the top, so the panel is sticking out. So I'm sitting out about 5/16 of an inch from the wall up here, and I'm flush with the wall down here. And of course, these top and bottom are flush on the hinge side. So what I want to do is, because we want to get this perfect, I'm going to take a little bit of material off of the stop on the bottom. I'm going to plane some of this stop off, and that'll allow the door to sit further in on the bottom. And I want to kind of split the difference so that probably like 1/8 of an inch behind the wall on the bottom, and maybe sitting forward just 1/8 of an inch or less on the top. And that'll just look normal. You won't really notice it, so I'm going to try and do that. So how do I do this to get this material off this jamb that's in place? Well, I've got this rabbet plane, which will go right into a corner tight, and I can just plane delicately some of that wood off. the door is shutting further inside the jamb there. So I'm behind the wall. I can see I'm about 1/8 of an inch. The door slab's about 1/8 of an inch behind the wall down below, and it's about 1/8 of an inch in front above. So it's splitting the difference, and I think it looks a lot better that way. So now I'm ready to put my flush pull on, and man, is that going to be cool.